Okay, so JD here, and today we provide kind of some real talk about testosterone optimization, dependency, the idea of being on something for life, and the risk reward, right? So if it means addiction or how it impacts your natural levels. So I'll start on addictions, right? So addictions to alcohol and cigarettes in excess are bad, right? Clinical studies have shown about the risks associated with that type of behavior. But when you talk about and kind of think about how this applies to heart smart testosterone optimization or growth hormone enhancement or peptide therapies or nootropics such as hydrogene mixed with modafinil, it's in a different story. And so my backstory is some time ago, I was at a top crossover investment fund, did public-private growth investments. In other words, they made $10 million to $50 million investments in high growth companies, right? The best in the world. Team was remarkable. A mix of high IQ and EQ, intelligent, driven, super talented. And best of all, they did really well in all aspects of life. And I, as a junior guy, I just really was like, wow, I want to be like the guy on top, right? The senior person and the managing partner. Dude was incredible. I've talked about it before, 51 years young, and he looked like he was in his early 30s. Worked out every day at 4:30 a.m. And just super disciplined, right? So I spoke to his admin assistant with the idea I could get some inside intel, right? And over a few conversations, I found out about how, she had mentioned all the partners were on some sort of biooptimization, and the guys kind of viewed themselves as pro athletes in the sport of business, right? And her understanding of what biooptimization was, because she was handling all the bookings and the meetings and their calendars and so forth, was anything the partners did for longevity enhancement, vitality, or to get an edge, right? And so, my problem back then was quite simply in my 20s, having been kind of super athletic, former college athlete, I was a blob, right? I was just like premature graying in the hair, knee pain, like really bad shoulder pain, felt older, really stressed out, very elevated cortisol levels, and just didn't know where to start. And so, the epiphany was kind of like just talking to a lot of the partners and kind of sussing out the fact that they were using systems and advisors and health coaches to kind of manage mentally, physically, motivationally, right? And so there's a few facets of what's causing kind of challenges today, right? So we have quite a bit of in the environment, hormone disrupting chemicals, right? Less physical activity. Certainly when I was working in that firm, I didn't work out as much. Diets, fad diets, maybe veganism, right? And doctors really aren't trained in optimization, hormone balance, holistic approach to medicine, right? So lab testing, diet, wellness, and so forth. And they produce traditional measures like just pills, right? That kind of don't really move the needle. Environmentally, right? Like if you go in your bathroom, like deodorants, lotions, shampoos, conditioners, shaving creams, right? They have hormone disruptors, right? So phthalates, parabens, and, microplastics, right? So phthalates are especially bad because they mimic estrogen, accumulate in your adipose fat cells, right? Parabens, not so good, estrogenic as well, and they're common in bath products, right? And so the problem is as we get older, as we age, right, our testosterone levels go down, insulin sensitivity kind of is impacted, right? So your ability to metabolize kind of carbs, proteins, and so forth goes down, right? Growth hormone, IGF-1 goes down. And so really the answer is, what can you do to kind of dial those levels back in, similar to how you were when 25 years young internally, right? And then SummaUp Dr. Ryan developed something called heart smart optimization. And so it's our methodology for a school of thought called testosterone replacement therapy. And so it gets a bad rep in the past. Athletes have kind of abused it to kind of get shredded lean. Some have taken it to get an unfair advantage, right? In cycling or UFC. But for, an executive or entrepreneur or somebody who's high achieving, right? A business owner that may get older and has lower hormone levels or low testosterone, and they kind of do it in the right, safe, and effective way, they're going to get an edge. They're going to feel younger. They'll get fit easier, and they'll improve their moods. And so if you're like me, you're like, wait a second, injections, testosterone, growth hormone, are those steroids? Aren't they illegal? Isn't that bad? Are you cheating? And the worst thing is, like, I think my biggest fear was like, I didn't want to be a junkie. I didn't want to be like somebody who's building dependence. I don't want to be like addicted to anything. I don't want to feel like addicted to like needles or injections or anything that, I needed to live my life, right? And so I realized after talking to kind of some of my mentors and, Dr. Ryan especially, that when you're purchasing anything in life that's healthy within normal boundaries, if it's any good for you, right, you're kind of on it for life. And let me explain. So, I'm a huge fan of something called Magic Spoon. This is like this cereal that has less sugar and has kind of less processed ingredients, right? I'm a huge fan of the Tonal Home Gym subscription, right? And from a therapeutic side, like metformin, NAD, and especially on injectable NAD and topics such as hydrogen and modafinil, right? And for my fiance, she's obsessed with Peloton and Starbucks, right? And all of these items are items that we get a certain benefit from, right? A psychic reward, a physiological reward, or a cognitive or a metabolic reward from, right? And they're not necessarily rooted in addiction, right? Now it's debatable, like, is Red Bull, okay, or In-N-Out cheeseburgers good for me, right? But I still keep buying them, not because I have an addiction, right? But because there's a psychic reward on cheat days or refeed days, right? But if you think about kind of, how this applies to testosterone, like, or growth hormone releasing peptides or just peptide therapies, like when you do it in the right manner, like biooptimization, and we use a technique called microdosing, in a manner that copies how your body naturally produces the hormones or metabolic functions, right? By definition, you're doing it in a manner that is not habit forming. And for testosterone especially, this microdosing technique will not shut off your production levels that by definition are declining each day by aging, environmental, and external factors, right? And so there's a few barriers, right? So like, is this an actual dependency? If done right, potentially no. Are you getting some benefits from it? Are you kind of feeling younger, kind of having more better enhanced metabolic health, adrenal health, and endocrine system function, right? Yes, potentially, right? And so if you're on this and you're getting a benefit, you're doing it the right way, okay? It's not necessarily an addiction as opposed to a healthy habit that can help you get an edge and change how you age, right? And so that's kind of something I kind of light switch flipped in my head because, I'm obsessed with the tonal. I'm probably never going to end that subscription. My fiance is never going to end the Peloton or Starbucks, but we get benefits from this, right? And so I think just overcoming that kind of debate I had in my head before I kind of got on optimization therapy helped me kind of get over those hurdles, right? And so obviously, like, the other barrier I had with regard to using heart-rate testosterone optimization, it's like, wait a second, it gives me, rage issues, steroids and acne and so forth, right? And gives women like mainly, features, right? But it's because, getting back to the first point, they misuse it or dose it the wrong way, or they don't have the right medical supervision from somebody who's actually using it, right? And it's completely different than, so to speak, like using it like a bodybuilder or juicing or using steroids, right? And so when I got to a bunch of functional MD doctors and I finally came across supplements, I saw a few middling benefits. Then I went back to the chairman of our firm, the kind of the managing partner, and I was like, if this doesn't work, how do I get him to kind of tell me what he's on? So I went to an offsite with him when he was kind of relaxed, maybe had a drink or two in him, and he was actually willing to help me out with talking about like functional medicine and the stuff I was doing. And he was like, maybe it's not like your approach. Maybe you're just working with the wrong person, right? You're working with the wrong advisor. And so when I finally spoke to him on a subsequent conversation, we had for extended conversation in another offsite where our investors met with us and the team, he was actually admitted he's been on a mix of, right, test, growth, hormone enhancement, metformin, injectable NAD, and a few peptides, right, for almost 15 plus years. Right. And then, he actually eventually finally pointed me to Dr. Ryan. And, the concept of microdosing hormones and kind of dialing your levels into 25 years young internally, right? And that's Dr. Ryan. So he's an actual doctor that, lives it, right? And so when you do that, right, when you kind of use biooptimization to get to 25 years young internally, from lipids, triglycerides, blood sugar, growth hormone, right? So testosterone, thyroid function, right? You have a real shot at really getting peak performance, right? And so I went, back to this little kind of photo here. I went from being kind of this like blob, so to speak, in my 20s, right? Just really kind of feeling old, having a lot of joint pain, to 10% lean today at 5'11", right? And so as we say at SummaUp, like when you kind of optimize yourself, put me first, when you invest in yourself, right? The first battles are won from within. And by putting myself first, I kind of unlocked a new level of outperformance and kind of, the business, money, wellness game, right? And so I think what's interesting is just kind of overcoming that barrier of the fact that, right, this is not necessarily dependency, this is not necessarily addiction, but overcoming that barrier and kind of thinking through, hey, like I'm making a choice to do this because every day we have an opportunity, right? Either our choices move us toward our goals, or our choices by definition, move us away from our goals, right? And we can say we want something. We can say we want to achieve a variety of goals. If it's a 7-figure business, if it's launching a new startup, if it's a better relationship, right? But your purchasing behaviors or your habits or your actual actions dictate whether you get towards that goal. So I hope this helps anyone thinking about optimization, anyone thinking about tests and so forth. And it helped certainly me transform, and hopefully it'll help anyone else out there.